Welcome to the corner of Morris and Queen. My name is Chris Green. I'm the owner of Atlantic News. Very happy to have two City Hall reporters here and the first sitting of our reporters roundtable at the rectangle table. Want to welcome Suzanne Rent with the Halifax Examiner and Colin Chisholm with AllNovaScotia. Welcome to the both of you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Yeah, great. First, just a little bit about each of you. Suzanne, what's your background? How are you so lucky to be covering City Hall here
I
in
am
Halifax?
really lucky
Yes.
to be covering City Hall. I love this beat. I started covering City Hall in October 2023. Our previous colleague, Zane Woodford, who is now working with Colin
I
at
see that name.
AllNovaScotia,
Yeah.
he left to go to AllNovaScotia, and I told Tim Bousquet, I said, can I take over that beat? And he said, sure, go for it. And here we are. I started freelancing with the Examiner in 2018. That sort of picked up over the years, and now I'm full-time.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks. Colin, how about
Awesome.
you?
Yeah. And Suzanne, you do great work over there. And yeah, we're happy to have Zane too. Sorry about it, but
Yeah, I know. Our loss, your gain.
yeah, I started reporting on City Hall pretty much exclusively in 2024 over the summer, and I've just been doing that since. Prior to that, I worked in the Annapolis Valley. I worked at the Hants Journal, which then became the Valley Journal Advertiser, and various mergers and things that happen in the media business. I was a freelancer before that, and I did a brief stint in marketing. I know Boo over at Saltwire for a while, but I'm happy to be back doing what I have wanted to do this whole time, which is to cover, politics and City Hall and all that good stuff. So, yeah.
Well, great. Well, thank you for the both of you, because you know what you do is you love it, but it surely is a public service. And the point of this is to get that information and the work you do out there so that more people can figure out what is going on here at the municipal level. So, and it might be interesting that the two of you might be two of the rare individuals that don't work for Post Media. It seems like more and more they're that they own more and more.
Yeah, I will say we have a lot of great colleagues at City Hall, both at Post Media and our national broadcaster, and various other independent publications as well. So it's a good diverse crew over there.
It is a great team, and I find we really work together, and Halifax is fortunate to have a lot of City Hall coverage.
Yes, and no shade at all at Post Media. The chief editor of the National Post, Rob Roberts, lives here in Halifax, and he's a friend of the podcast. So certainly it's all part of providing information for this place. So why don't we start with the budget, the municipal budget? I guess we're pre-season. The budget talks really kick off in the fall. You both will correct me and help out with the timeline. But before we get started with what we're looking for this budget and how it's set up, maybe if we could set the table with how the last budget ended up, because the bit that sticks out in my mind is that the Mayor Fillmore, one of the members of council, was one of three individuals that voted against it. But the budget. But it sounds like there were a lot of successes in this budget. So, Suzanne, do you want to start? Just a little review of what we should be thinking about as we're leading into this new budget season.
Well, Mayor Fillmore has really been pushing to have, first of all, was the flat tax rate,
Right.
and he got that rather on the previous budget. He tried to push for that again on this one, but that wasn't going to work. And Colin can always jump in. But
Now he ran on this, right?
yes, he ran. That was his mandate.
And just briefly, in case people don't know, the flat tax rate, is that just keeping taxes static, not raising taxes? What is meant here in the flat tax rate?
Yes, basically there would be an increase though, even with a flat tax rate.
Yeah, so it's a bit getting into the residential and commercial property taxes can always be a bit complex. But essentially, the rate is the amount of percent increase or decrease that council can determine whether it should go up or it should go down. But homeowners
compared to the
previous year,
Okay,
but homeowners and business owners will see their assessments rise regardless. So the value of your home or business may go up,
Right.
and essentially you are paying a rate based on the value of your property.
Yes.
Because that is the I think 80% of the revenue that the city gets comes from property taxes. So an attempt to keep the rate flat would mean you would only see an increase from your assessment increase.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
And
great.
one
Thank you
other
for that.
one other extra fun thing about that is that many properties are under what's called the assessment cap program, which is a provincial program that essentially limits those assessment increases, if you've owned your home for more than a year, I believe it is, to like inflation. So some people are paying way less property tax for what their property is actually worth because of the cap.
Right.
Yeah, and that could be a similar house on the same street. One house
Sure.
is paying, double the amount of property taxes that another house whose owner who've had a long time is paying.
And the way that shakes out, isn't it, that it's mostly established homeowners that are paying low taxes, and here we have young people that are trying to get into the housing market and can't do it
Yes.
for many reasons, but one of them because the tax rate's so high.
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
That is something that I think a lot of regional council members have pointed out is a bit of a imbalance in the system. The mayor himself has called that out as something that needs to be looked at in terms of, just that exact example. Say a duplex, you have one side, a homeowner's been there for maybe 20 years and pays a way smaller rate of taxes than a brand new family that just moved in next door, right? So there is that kind of unfair quality to it.
And Councillor Janet Steele, who's in District 12, introduced a motion looking for a staff report on the provincial cap system.
District 12's out Timberley Way? Is that
Yes,
right?
Timberley,
Yeah.
Clayton Park. And she wants to see how that can change, how it can be phased out. And I think that's the concerns about the cap run across the province. What the solution is, a lot of people don't know.
Who knows? And this is, of course, not just a problem here locally or provincially. It's across the country.
Yes.
It's across North America, very much so. Okay, so the mayor is coming. I interrupted you. The mayor is coming from a point of keeping the flat tax rate. This is about affordability. It's hard to argue against that, but there was opposition on how to proceed with that, wasn't
Yes, there were a couple of motions from Phil Moore in his office that sort of threw things into a bit of chaos during the budget process. The first was on his own office budget, and he
right.
wanted an extra staff member who had already been hired, and council wanted him to cut that staff member from the budget. I can't remember. It was over $1 million is the budget for his own office. And then the second motion was around, he threw this in last minute on a Friday morning, and it was around a 7% cut in municipal wages and compensation.
Right.
And a lot of councillors were very upset about that.
Took the council by surprise.
Yes,
At
it
least
did.
that's what they said. Yes. Okay, so the mayor's line has been affordability. Of course, we have a city that, even though the environment has changed federally and there is less immigration, you still have growth. You still have the need for services, and of course, this is the age-old issue. You don't want to raise taxes, but you need services. And I imagine at the end, though, there seemed to be quite a bit of successes and victories in the last budget in terms of providing those services. Or is that, can we say that?
Sure. I think it would depend on who you ask if it was a success or not. Obviously, Mayor Fillmore voted against the budget. He said he just morally or in his own way he couldn't support it because of mainly the tax increase. Obviously, they were facing a lot of issues in terms of the cost of everything going up so much, the cost of labor, the cost of collective agreements, the cost of everything just going up, construction, fuel, everything. And that's only going to get worse, really. So it's about trying to balance the needs of the city to keep things, like no enhancements, just to keep things the same, costs a lot more than it did last year.
Right.
So how can you, there's something there, a tension there, where we will need some increase, or you got to cut something. You can't kind of square that circle otherwise. So that caused some tension, and it was a pretty, like, compared to the year prior, it was a pretty heated budget debate, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, at times there was some real tension in the room, but I think eventually they were able to sort of come to somewhat of a compromise, probably not a full one, but so instead of the flat tax rate, we ended up something closer to, when all things are tabulated, around 7.5% increase over last year's bill. So not ideal for Fillmore, but certainly lower than the initial ask of something like 10.9%. So kind of a semi-victory there, I guess, if you're just looking at the tax rate itself.
In terms of what we got out of it, council made some decisions to put money into reserve funds. So I think it totaled $18 million, if I recall correctly. And they pushed ahead by a year the purchase of 10 buses, new diesel buses for Halifax Transit. I still call it Metro Transit.
Who doesn't?
And those buses will be used on 3 routes in the city: the number 3, the number 9A and B, and the number 28.
So this should only help with
Yes.
getting people around by public
Apparently,
transportation.
those are some of the most in-demand routes in the city.
Now, I heard there's always going to be criticism for a seemingly positive item. There was some criticism that these buses were diesel and not electric.
Yes.
But, is that a little piling on? Because I think at that stage, just getting the extra buses is a win.
Exactly. Councillor Catherine Morris introduced that motion. She wanted to push that purchase ahead. I think the Mayor Fillmore was concerned that, we're spending money because these buses are being paid for with cash, as opposed to waiting for the original plan was to purchase them next year.
Yeah, and the electric question, these are articulated buses, and the EV technology for an articulated bus, just as far as I understand it, is not there yet. So when you have a vehicle of that size, diesel is kind of the only thing that's available on the market right now. So until EV articulated comes into that pipeline, it's hard to even look at that. It's not an option. So, but I think saying, well, we need to wait for EVs is also a way to say, I don't want to spend that money right now.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Suzanne, you mentioned putting money in reserves. There was one big piece from last year's budget that stands out, and that was the taking the library reserve to pay for operational funds. Now, is that a situation that we believe is this going to set a precedent, or was there enough of a conflict over this that this won't happen again? What
I think that was a big lesson learned. They took out $10 million in the previous budget to help pay for some of the costs, keep the tax rate low. We ended up paying an extra, I think, $14 million. It worked out to that $10 million turned into $24 million.
I think it was basically there was a $4 million in extra credit.
Yes.
That has to be paid. That has to pay that down. So is it $24 million total?
I thought that's what it was. Shouldn't quote me on this, but I can look that up.
Right. And so are we moving into this new season? I've read in a couple of places where this budget is going to be the most consequential budget in Halifax's history. Is this just the case every year, or are we looking at this coming year with a board that's been this council has now been in office for at least a year, or is it 2 years?
2 years.
So they've been 2 years, so they know the rules of the road. Does this mean that it's? What do we make of that? Is each year the most consequential, or are we really facing some major choices in Halifax this coming year?
I think it will be tougher going ahead, and that's certainly anecdotally what I've heard, that the next budget will be tougher. Again, there will be a tax rate increase. There will be debates over what to cut and whatnot. So.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think prior to this council's term, we had years and years of very low tax rate increases, especially over COVID. There was a desire to sort of spare people any extra pain, but now we're paying for that now, especially as supply chains and labor costs and everything goes up so much. The rubber is hitting the road now, and we're going to have to spend more. And so, with that desire of keeping the tax rate relatively stable for folks, there's going to be that tension will only get worse and worse as we deal with, well, what do we pay for? What do we cut? We can't cut because the city keeps growing. And as the city continues to grow, you need more services. You need more parks for people to go to, more buses for people to take. And what we've really seen, too, is that all these cranes in the sky are not paying for the services that those people will need. In fact, they're costing us more money. So it's a real rock and a hard place situation that I think regional council finds themselves in, where they have all these plans and priorities and things that they want to like follow through on, but it's all getting more expensive. Yeah.
And are a couple of the problems also that we have much less immigration. For a number of years, the city was taking advantage of new people coming here and the spending and the taxes involved there. But also, post-COVID, with so many people moving into Toronto, the real estate prices and home prices went up, and hence more money in the city's coffers. That seems to have, if not plateaued, I don't know if it's dropping, but is that an issue that the city has to face, the fact that just the tax revenues are down because because those increases in homes do not continue to climb?
I might grab that one first, if that's
Sure,
okay.
yeah.
So I think it's much more Tim Houston's problem than it is regional council's problem.
How's that?
So the province has had years of tax windfalls, especially from income tax, from all these newcomers, both immigration, people moving in from other provinces. Nova Scotia boomed over the last 5 years. And through that, the province's books have been looking really great, and they were spending as such as well. Now we've seen with the provincial budget how that has come to a screeching halt, and there's a lot of changes affecting it. I don't cover that every day, but you can see that the tone has really shifted over there. In terms of the city, you know, it doesn't rely on income taxes. It only relies on property. And I guess in one way, luckily for the city, there is still a lot of demand. There's still a lot of demand for new housing, for industrial plots, for all the things that generate revenue for the city. So, but the problem is the cost side. It still costs way more than it used to build roads, to build sidewalks, to build, water infrastructure.
Especially in the last 3-4 months with what's going on in the world.
Right.
And
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
only going to go up,
Yes.
as you've mentioned, you both have mentioned. Yeah.
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 Or if you wanted to add anything to that, or
I don't. That was pretty good.
Yes, yes. So we have this upcoming budget season, and the mayor just recently came out with a motion that seemed to surprise some. It got support from, I remember the councillor from Dartmouth said, okay, this sounds pretty good. But what was this motion, and why was it surprising that it came so early?
Well, it was really a repeat of the motion that he had going into the last budget season. Again, keep expenditures flat, focus on core services. And it did get support from, I think, most of the councillors. And it did pass, of course. That's just really setting the base of what's going to happen in the next budget season. So staff will have the next few months to look at, their own budgets, cuts, what could be cut, what do they need to, and their service review is coming into play as well. And that's looking at municipal services where there can be some efficiencies and whatnot. So it's, right now, it's just setting the stage for the process in the fall.
So what he said wasn't a surprise, but really he was setting the stage for almost politically, here's how I want this budget to proceed and keep this in mind.
Yes.
Is that the idea?
I would say so. Yeah, it contained within that motion, it's the only increases to spending can come from collective agreements, contractual obligations, things that regional council can't
inflation.
Things regional council really doesn't have much control over anyway. So it's just keeping the baseline where it is. And so any enhancements will have to, whether that's more buses, whether that's, we want to build a fun new zoo in the middle of the harbor. Or
Let's have that.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Whatever
it is, that will all need to be debated vigorously at budget committee. And again, it is very much so a repeat of what he did
Yes.
last time around.
Okay, so that motion's not going to change how the debate goes.
No.
It just
Keeps the baseline where it was. Yeah.
Right, I see.
Yeah.
But both of you have commented on the relationship between the mayor and the council in different ways, and it's interesting to follow this because it's the mayor, Mr. Fillmore, sure came in with an amazing CV. His background in city planning, his background as a federal rep, and he won by a pretty good majority. taking over the mayoral piece, but coming right in, it was a tough first year for him. And I remember it was around January where it seemed that the mayor was coming out and was letting people know it's a new strategy here. We're going to communicate more. But then it appeared to go back to the same pattern, which seemed combative in the council. I don't know who'd like to start with this, but the question is, and all good-intentioned people, and the mayor wants to keep costs down. Who doesn't? But how do we? What are some of the aspects of this relationship that we should be looking for going forward? I don't know who wants to start with that one. Colin, you wrote a piece recently on the mayor looking back and how things are going.
Yeah. I had a sit down with him and just sort of chatted about how things are going so far. And yeah, I think a lot of this conflict, it's not conflict, maybe it's not the right word, but this tension between members of regional council and the mayor came to a head last summer. And the main reason for that was these whispers, especially leading up to that point about, well, what about strong mayor powers? The mayor has specific agendas that he was elected to bring forward, but he's not getting the council support that he needs in order to pass those things. So,
and this was during the time of the big bike debates, and it almost seemed like the mayor was, whether willingly, coming in with this sort of big brother, the premier, behind him, in a sense.
So we did confirm there were conversations about between folks in the Houston team and with Fillmore about whether or not strong mayor powers could, like, there were early discussions is what I know.
And premiers can do this, right? And there are mayors that have strong mayor powers.
Ontario is right there.
So this happens, right, of course.
Exactly. So,
but this really created a contentious environment, didn't it, among the
It did, because
council.
You're basically telling members of regional council, well, your voice will now matter less, and the mayor's agenda is the one that will win out in the end, because we didn't know what that legislation could have looked like. Would he have, more than one vote? Would he set the budget? Like, we didn't know what it could. We were kind of guessing based on the Ontario example, but obviously, when you tell someone who is in a position of power, your power's going down, that's going to create some blowback and some tension. So there was some of that. He did try to sort of smooth things out. But at one point, I think maybe at the height of those tensions was when they all asked him to write a letter to the premier to say, don't do this. And then he said, I'm going to write that, but I'm also going to write my own saying, please do this anyway. Okay. So they were diametrically opposed on this question. It started out with like I haven't heard of this. I don't know what this is all about. I'm not too sure. And then he fully went all in on it. That eventually did end up fizzling out by the end of the summer last year.
Did you get a sense of, in your piece on the mayor and chatting with them, did you get a sense of where that came from and why he did that, or that probably didn't come up?
Well, I think what he did say to me, and this was from a previous interview, was that he was, when that had all sort of fizzled away, I think he was happy to put that kind of behind him and to move forward and come to consensus and work with his colleagues more closely.
And he would talk about that.
Yes, for sure. And I think we've seen some of that has happened for sure. He has, worked closely with some of his council colleagues and had very civil debates back and forth. And, I think he is interested in governing now with the system before him. But there's still issues that come up when the mayor is opposed to what the majority of council wants. Right. And so there is going to be that tension. I think the budget is an example of that.
Do you think that the mayor understands that he's one of council? Because oftentimes, as someone from myself, as I'm learning about this, it almost, and this could be totally wrong, but it seems sometimes he approaches it as, I'm part of the council, but I'm at a higher level, so I'm able to do this, and that seemed to create some of the issues. So do you feel is that what's going on in his approach? I'm not asking you to read his mind.
No, it could be because he came from the federal level of government. Sorry.
Right.
And it's just a different process. And maybe he came in thinking, I'm the boss. I can, do what I want. I don't know. I'm glad to hear that Colin got an interview with him because I have not been able to secure an interview.
It's been difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've been trying since before he got elected, actually. And I think it's a personality. He has a different personality than the previous mayor, Mike Savage.
Who was open and
yes,
liked
right.
to chat. And,
Right, very personable, friendly, talks to everybody on the street, really.
Right.
I think when I really saw the tension was during the previous budget debate, and the mayor was gone for a week on vacation.
Right. For some big votes. He
Yes,
wasn't
it was
there.
in February 2025, and I remember
Right.
the debate was around encampments and a drop-in center for people who are unhoused. And Sam Alston, the councillor for Dartmouth District 5, he was quite District 6, I can't remember. Five, right. He was quite upset, emotional about this. And then Becky Kent, the councillor in Eastern Passage, Calbay, she just came out and said, we all want to know why the mayor is not here. And she was quite angry about that. And I remember
Right.
that, thinking at that point, oh, there's a lot of tension going on here. So I do think it's a work in progress.
Right.
I think one more example there I would give is in recently released documents through a Freedom of Information Act, we saw that one of the councillors, Janet Steele, did email the mayor and ask him to tone his rhetoric down when it came to Halifax water, especially around because they were dealing with their proposed rate increase and were dealing with potential reputational damage. And the mayor came back to her and said, I think, for me, this is an important issue. This is something that does impact the citizens in terms of their ability to pay their bills. I think it's important to be transparent and open about these critiques I have for this institution. And I think he's going to keep pushing on that issue as especially, I think that's going to be a big theme as the year continues.
The issue of Halifax water and,
Yes.
and transparency and looking at why some of these past problems happened. Are they doing the best they can? These sorts of things.
He has called for an audit of Halifax water. They recently got a compounded rate increase of 18%.
Right.
Where they originally asked for 37%, which was deemed rate shock by the board. So that's a lot of money to ask. That organization has gone through, I'll be polite, many challenges over the last couple of years.
Many CAOs, CEOs.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Through boil water advisories, there's still no fluoride going into the Dartmouth side. A big building they wanted to build in Burnside that got stripped back a little bit. You can't pay your bill online right now because of the cyber attack that happened.
I've seen that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of issues there, and he has asked for both auditors general to both at the city and the province to investigate that organization from a structural governance point of view, and if things can be done better there.
So for good reasons, the mayor is raising these issues and saying, are we doing the best we can? Now, the way that he did this, does this show us a pattern? Because it appears that now this has created a rift between Janet Steele and the mayor. Does this show us that we're back to the same pattern, or no, it's just the mayor raising this issue, or stay tuned?
I don't know. I know in September 2025, Haley Ryan at CBC, who is one of our City Hall colleagues, she did a story about how the mayor and the councillors had a facilitated workshop and on how they could work better together. And I asked a couple of councillors about that recently in the November, and I know Catherine Morris called it more of a festivus and airing grievances, which I thought was telling. And I said, do you need another one of those sessions? And she said, not sure. Becky Kent told me, I think it's too late for that. So we're going to have to see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yes. But before we move on to our final topic, just curious, in terms of City Hall reporters, what does your access look like? These scrums, are they scheduled? I mean, if you want to get a quote from the mayor or talk with the mayor, how does that work as City Hall reporters? Is it a structured piece, or is it catch as catch can? Or both?
I mean, the day of council can be a little chaotic because we have an agenda of everything they're going to talk about. And
These are
that-
Tuesdays. Right?
These are usually every second Tuesday. But then you also have committees throughout the week. I won't get into too much of the minutia. We don't just wait around every 2 weeks.
There's meetings all the time.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the council day is sort of the big day.
Yes.
And so we go, we follow along. Often the agenda gets moved around. They like to put the private in-camera part maybe ahead or move it, or so your day gets thrown out a little bit. But that's fine. That's how she goes.
Yes.
Then there's usually a opportunity to talk to the mayor in a scrum situation or another member of council. If they are bringing forward an issue they're really passionate about, they might speak to us. And then I don't want to speak to what other reporters do, but then you talk to other people who are involved with whatever topic you might be writing about. And sometimes you need to get the official word from like the city comms staff, who I bug pretty much every day.
Same.
But yeah, so it's a bit of a catch-all. You talk to as many people as you can and try to distill it into a nice, concise piece. Yeah.
So, Suzanne, would the both of you reporters that would you have the opportunity every 2 weeks or whenever these Tuesday meetings are to ask questions? Or is that up to the mayor deciding if he's going to avail himself, or is that opportunity given?
Usually we have a scrum with the mayor at around 12:30 in the lunchtime break. Sometimes his comm staff will let us know in advance the day before. Yes, the mayor will be available at 12:30 on Tuesday. Sometimes that's not the case. And then again, as far as councillors, we just sort of catch them in the hallway and whatnot and do a little.
I see. And can the both of you compare this mayoral experience with the former mayor, and if so, are there big differences? And maybe you've already spoken to it. Big differences in terms of these scrums and being able to ask questions and get information.
Suzanne, you've had more experience at Halifax City Hall than me.
Well, I did interview Mike Savage 1 year. I think it was in when was he elected again? 2012?
2012, yeah.
Yes. So I interviewed, I did a 1-year piece for Halifax Magazine, which no longer exists, unfortunately.
We need to bring that back.
Yes, he was, a great sit-down interview, and I would see him, at the Pride Parade or whatnot. He would say hi, and that has not been the case with Mayor Fillmore.
It's not the style.
Not for me, anyway. Yes.
And probably not the style of Mr. Fillmore, would we say?
So,
or can we even say?
I'm not sure.
So I didn't get too many opportunities to chat with Mike Savage in my official capacity as reporter here, because I came in sort of as these councils were turning over. Okay. Right. It was right before the 2024 election. Mike was always a very jovial, pretty funny guy. And in his capacity now as Lieutenant Governor, I think that has pretty much remained true. In any official events, he's often one to poke jokes at himself, mostly.
Yeah.
In terms of the mayor, Mayor Fillmore, he's always. I will give him credit if I need to talk to him about something I'm working on. For instance, the Burnside piece that came out recently. He will talk to me about that, and he will give his point of view. And I know that's maybe not the case with every reporter there, but that's all I can really say about that. Yeah.
So we'll see how this year continues the story. One last piece for us to discuss today in our time. A major part of last year's budget, and it'll come up a lot in this year's budget, and it's an issue everybody talks about, and that's transportation. Whether it's public transportation, whether you can ride your bike, whether you can walk on sidewalks around construction areas, can you get across with the ferry? What are some? And this is a very big topic that we can talk about for ages and ages. But in terms of looking forward to the budget, what are some of the pieces of transportation that we should pay attention to and that we're going to be hearing about?
More buses, for sure. I know Mayor Fillmore had a motion about, and I don't know when that report will come back, but it was about creating high occupancy vehicle lanes. We do have some bus lanes in the city, but he wants a pilot project on where some HOV lanes could be placed in the city. Not so sure about that. I would prefer to see more bus lanes. I use transit sometimes, and it's a bit of a thrill being in a bus lane and you pass all these cars. But
Right.
we'll see how that
Yeah,
plays out.
and what it was a very nice piece recently you did, and it was an experience where I think you spent the day taking public transportation.
I did.
and it was very nice just to follow the different pieces. From doing that, what are your takeaways for the upcoming budget and what needs to happen?
I'd been doing this little experiment I called I'm a dedicated birder, Colin would know.
Yes.
So I've been trying to reduce my reliance on using my car. So I take some transit routes to different parks and trails around the city where I can go birding.
Nice.
And on Wednesday, or yes, it was Wednesday, I decided I would go birding in downtown Dartmouth at the Commons and at the cemetery there before I went to the police board meeting at 1 o'clock. So because I live in Fairview, I decided I would walk 15 minutes to take the number 3 Crosstown bus, which takes me to the bridge terminal. I missed one of the buses, had to wait 20 minutes. So it was an hour and 4 minutes to get from Fairview to the bridge terminal. So that was a really long time.
And that sure could be a deterrence
Yes,
to people thinking
exactly.
about, should I take public
Yeah.
transportation? Now for that wait, was it because there's just not enough buses? Was it, and maybe you can't speak to this.
I don't know. Well, according to the app, I was following the transit app, HFX Go, and the bus arrived a couple of minutes early. So I saw it in the distance as I was going
Right.
by. So there's more planning
So
involved
it
in
sure
taking
took
transit for
so
sure.
much time.
Yes.
Yeah. And that really is, in terms of perception and getting people out of their cars on the bus, the first thing is, how long is it going to take me? I mean,
Right,
I have this
yeah.
conversation with my 15-year-old. We live in Fairview, and he goes to school in the city, and we're trying to get to the point where we're not chauffeurs. But this comes up over and over again. Okay, I can do it, but it's going to take all this time. And I imagine everyone in the city knows about this.
Yes.
And this is being discussed, but you think that the starting point is just one of them is getting more buses.
More buses
which they did
for
last
sure.
year.
Frequency. Personally, I would like to see more express routes, and those are more direct routes from
Right.
point to point. For example, the 138 and 136 go near my house, and they're about half the time than it takes
Right.
the Route 2, which sort of winds throughout the city before it actually gets downtown. I put this question out on Blue Sky, and people said they would like to see more bus lanes, a more frequency, more buses at all in more suburban areas. I know Colin's in Sackville, so
Yep.
he could have a different experience
Yeah.
than what
Yeah.
I have.
I'm also a regular transit user. I use the bus all the time. I'm a one-car household, so sometimes I will carpool in, and especially if it's kind of rainy. But yeah, the bus is and transit and getting around the city is a major complex issue for a lot of people.
Sure.
We've seen congestion go way up across the board. Bridge tolls coming off has increased traffic over the bridges
didn't
by
help.
10%.
10%, yeah.
We've seen, as this population continues to grow and an infrastructure deficit continue to worsen, more people are being stuck in traffic all over the place.
And we have these parameters set in place that are just facts. This is a city that's hundreds of years old, where the roads were built for horse and carriage. It's a peninsula, so there's only a couple places to get on, right? Right. And so when you talk about bus lanes, well, where are you going to do that? Are you going to, this whole discuss on Roby Street? Do you cut down trees? Do you buy? Yeah, so
Yes.
of course this is not an easy fix the buses.
There are a lot of factors to consider.
Right,
you know.
right. But do we have a feeling that is the council on the right track? Or we ended up with more buses? What are some of the debates and proposals we're going to see coming up? Now, did these get cut off by the knees because of the mayor's comment of we're not going to spend money, or no? Are those mutually exclusive?
I think one of the big components we're waiting for more details on is this bus rapid transit plan, which the city has had for years, and the province is on board, at least to the extent that they're helping them buy land along Roby Street to expand that road and to put dedicated bus lanes down there. But you're also going to run into a lot of tension especially with the public, who are saying you're changing our streets, apartments are going up
Roby
everywhere.
Street is a big controversy.
Yeah, we
right?
have a lot of housing there that is currently vacant because they're getting ready for the bus lane expansion.
Right.
And the intent there is to get people on the bus and where they need to go faster. And that, makes a lot of sense because people don't want to be stuck in their car all day. A lot of people would say that they would take the bus more often if it was more reliable and faster and you're able to get where you need to go, rather than taking, say, the 8, which I took today. And took me
it's an hour,
an hour plus to get here today.
Because the 8 stops everywhere and
it's
not
kind
an
of
express.
bit of a milk run.
Okay, yes.
But I listened to my podcasts and played a game on my phone or whatever. But for folks who need to rely on transit to get around, these questions are going to keep coming again and again. And but I think what we're going to see, which we've already seen many times, is the tension between people wanting to have the roads for their car versus people who want, I want some of that road for my bike, and I want some of that road for my bus lane, and I want some of that road for a sidewalk. Right. And there's only so much. We are limited by physics.
It's a very zero-sum discussion, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, you can't expand all of them.
And some members of council are very pro one way of thinking, and some are very the other way. I won't name names there, but it creates a lot of sort of urban planning debates and discussion throughout. Almost every couple of weeks we joke that, here comes the bike lane debate again, because we just can't help ourselves.
It comes up in a lot of different forms, doesn't it? I mean, I've always been a very pro-bike person, but then I come to this city and see the complexities of it. The gentleman I talked to yesterday who drove in here for us to chat, he said, I love bikes, but I drove in here and there used to be 2 lanes, but one of the lanes is bike. So we were lined up in cars and it took forever to get here. Now, is that just a growing pain? And I know the two of you aren't experts on how to fix the bike thing, but these are, the bike issue is, it seemed that it came to a head and with Morris Street here and the province stepped in and then the council pulled back. Are we going to see waves of, is it almost like the waves on a beach? Now we're going to have, this will come back and there'll be discussions and it'll recede?
I think there will be more discussions on, and there have been more discussions on, what are some less expensive alternatives to the AAA network for the bike lanes. And what they look like, I don't know. I'm not an expert on bike lane infrastructure, but I think there will be more of those discussions on what else can we do that maybe will cost a little less money.
Yes.
Right. And one other thing I would add there is that there's still going to be a lot of backlash to these things. Like, for instance, like Moore Street, I think, was a great example of the province literally passed legislation that said, if we don't like this infrastructure you're putting in, we can say no and make you pay to remove it. So I think this will continue to be. I don't think anyone loves doing this constant back and forth over the bike lanes, but it comes up and everyone kind of rolls their eyes and rolls up their sleeves, like, okay, let's go, let's do this again. But yeah, it's definitely not going away.
No.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of misinformation about bike lane infrastructure and how it's built. In most cases, it's part of capital renewal projects. We're going to redo sidewalks. We're going to do something with the street. Let's add a bike lane in. So it's not just a bike lane infrastructure.
One other quick thing I'll add too is you're dealing with people's perception. So
exactly.
If you're sitting in your car and you don't see a bike right next to you,
and there's an empty lane,
what's
going on?
What is this? One of the things that is, I think, perhaps what staff would say is hindering the rollout of that capacity is it's not fully interconnected yet. So because you have basically these islands of bike lanes, you're not going to get a whole lot of adoption until you have, in theory at least, we'll see, a fully built-out bike network, a AAA bike network, which just basically means all ages accessible, so anyone who wants to use it can use it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, Colin and Suzanne, thank you very much. We've the idea here is every 2 weeks we'll get together, and I think next week we're going to take a look at some of the development issues, the question of the city at a crossroads, and there's some old beloved buildings in this city, and what do we do with them? But all sorts of things to talk about. So thank you very much, and have a nice weekend.
You too. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. And Suzanne, thanks as well.
Thanks, Colin.
Yep, good chat.